Lives with Tammy and Hayley, and we are talking, well, typical January stuff, really. We're talking about overindulgence over the latter part of December. We're talking New Year's resolutions, and some of the things that we've had said so far. There's no substance. It's a fantasy future, and people make them without actually caring. As some of the comments that we've had so far on resolutions, and I'm really curious. If you're joining us, have you made a New Year's resolution at home? Have you joined any of these themed months? And if you're not sure what a themed month is, I'm going to hand over. In fact, let's have a little game. Tammy, you go first, then Hayley, then Tammy, then Hayley, with some themed months. Go on, Tammy, you kick us off.
All right, so January, dry January.
Nice.
I'm going to struggle with this because I don't get involved with them. I know Veganuary is one of them, isn't it?
Yeah, well done.
I'm going to say step into January or jumpstart January.
Nice. Okay.
Red January.
Well done. Yeah. So red January. That's run every day January. That stands for.
Oh.
Yeah. Tammy, have you got many others there? That they're kind of the main ones that I was aware of.
No, I've got nothing now. I was going to start Googling.
Don't mind me, all on our phones. Quick, what's another one? But yeah, there are many, and of course there's themed months throughout the year as well. And a bit like Valentine's Day. Why do you have to wait until Valentine's Day to tell us your significant other how you feel about them? Why do we need January to tell us to eat less meat, to get our steps up, to run every day? Hayley, what is this about January?
I think it's just symbolic, isn't it? It's the start of the year. Although, if you think about financial year, there's another start of the year. The school year starts again. But yeah, I think it's the symbolism of, this year ends and this year begins. And I do think people think it's a magic time, and that is, if I set these new goals now, that they'll just happen. But actually, we've got to put effort into it as well. This is not. It's not a magic January.
No, I wish it was though. Could you imagine? Oh, I've signed up for Magic January. That sounds better.
That's what I would sign up for.
Yeah, that's the one. Good evening to Delton, who's joined us on Facebook. Delton's watching at the moment. Delton, we're talking New Year's resolutions. Have you made any? Why have you made it? I think that's the key thing, isn't it, Tammy? Why do we have resolutions?
It's unnecessary. We do it just for goals, and Hayley and I, and we spoke about that in the first segment. It's that new start of the year. It's that magic January. But for me, and I said it earlier, I think that so many people, they set New Year's resolutions, and they make them about things that they don't actually care about, which I know is a massive taboo thing to say. And I'm waiting for the comments, but you have people that might say that they want to lose £10, for example, or spend less time playing online games. So these are really nice ideas, but they aren't very meaningful and definitely not mindful, if that makes sense. Instead, when you think of goals in terms of how you want to think or how you want to be, and then you start to make the changes, but they don't happen overnight. They're not going to happen in the first 31 days of 31 days of the year. It's about just looking at the road ahead and making those incremental goals that are going to get you to your destination.
I like that. So it doesn't need to be a sweeping statement on December 31st. Hayley, incremental change.
Absolutely, because that's how you sustain, your progress towards achieving the goals. Baby steps, planning. Even I'm not a planner at heart. Okay, it takes me a while to plan. I have to really put effort into it. But if you definitely want to achieve something, then that's the way to go, is to know where you're headed, why you're headed there, and what it means for you at the end. And then you can mark your progress as you go along. You can take a look back and think what you've achieved, and then how far you've got to go, and then work on those steps that you need to do next.
And... Yes, I agree with that. Sorry, Tom, just jumping in there. I go to, rather than New Year's resolutions, it's maybe about just taking control or ownership of your well-being. You have a healthy mind, and that helps you have a healthy body, which then in turn gives you a healthy mind, and repeat and repeat. So rather than those huge life-changing resolutions that you make, let's just start small. And the other thing, and I touched on it before, is if you want to make that change, why wait till the 1st of Jan? If you want to lose weight, if you want to stop eating sugar, if you want to stop smoking, for example, and you have this thought in November, let's start then. Let's start that very day. Let's not leave it another 2 months to start that kind of process.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Delton's been back in touch. Now, we've been talking resolutions. I'm going to bring Charlene's comment in a moment. So, Delton, I like that my resolution of this year is to get to 1,000 followers on TikTok. Now, I'm not going to be for or against that resolution, but I'm going to bring it back to that question that we've all posed this evening, which is why? And Tammy was just talking there about meaningful change. So, Hayley, do you think that, so resolutions back in the day, they were the very traditional ones, like Tammy was mentioning, how I'm going to, like what I'm going to be eating, how I'm going to be exercising. The trend is almost changing at the moment, isn't it? To be like, I will be more recognizable, is to paraphrase what Delton's saying there. What kind of impact would that have going forward for an individual, for their social circle? What impact could a resolution like that have?
I think I'm going to change the question that you've asked there, Tom. And we've all said, we've all asked the question why. But what about this question? What makes this goal important to me? What is it going to change my life? What do I want out of it? So you start looking at the goal in a different way, that New Year's resolution. And it's quite tough, isn't it? Because more recognition, it's great to have more recognition, but what does that actually mean for you longer term? Are you putting yourself out there safely? If that's your goal, to get these 1,000 followers, is it a safe goal? Do you know who's going to be following you? And there's so many dimensions and dynamics to setting resolutions, and particularly with sort of online presence. But yeah, I think there's two ways to look at it, isn't it? It can be a pressure, it can be a good thing. But I find particularly things that are faddy or trends, they tend to be more of a pressure than a good thing.
Yeah. No, that's a fair comment. And Delton saying that he wants the ability to go live. You need to have 1,000 followers to go live on the platform, and you can share your stories in an instant moment. I'm going to go back to Charlene got in touch. We were talking, I shared earlier that we're going to be doing this show, and we're talking resolutions, we're talking about goals. And Charlene's comment, and then we're going to bring Colette in as well. She's commented on the Facebook as well. And what Charlene has said is people create unachievable goals or don't have the mindset to actually achieve it. They just hope certain things will happen, and life isn't that easy. And Tammy, hoping and wishing that something's going to happen and taking those incremental steps like you mentioned, they're two very different things. That involves stepping out of your comfort zone in certain circumstances.
Yeah, we all know that coming out of our comfort zone is where the magic happens. Otherwise, we wouldn't actually move forward. We wouldn't find those solutions, and we wouldn't change. When we want something, and we really passionately want something to happen, as opposed to that fluffiness of I'd like it to happen, or it would be nice if it did, those are really different. So when we set that goal, and again, it comes back to substance, which Hayley touched on earlier, and then it's the journey to actually get to that destination. Again, you think of somebody who says they're going to start the gym, they're going to start, a detox. But we know those are really just massive things to say, massive statements to say, when the fact is that we've never done a detox, or we've never been to the gym before. Then all of a sudden on the 1st of January, that's what we're doing. We're going to set ourselves up to fail, which is again going to create anxiety. It's going to make us feel guilty. It's going to have that, that effect on our self-esteem, which goes against everything that you're hoping for that new year, that new start.
Yeah, and in fact, we're going to be touching with Carl after 10 o'clock about this theory of Quitter's Day. And before we've even got to the end of the first month of the year, we've already failed because we've set these goals without actually taking the time to make them, for example, smart. Is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it accurate? Can you record it? Is it time sensitive? And we're just throwing things out into the ether and being like, this will happen. We're manifesting as opposed to doing. And they're two very different things. If you want to actually do something, it's going to require an action. It's going to require an energy from you. And I am going to bring Colette's comment in first. But one of the things that I did last year, I don't tend to make resolutions as such. I tend to come up with a key word that I want to kind of work towards as I go forward. So I can't remember what they are from last year, but I remember I had one key phrase, and it might be like expansion. Like what if I'm doing things in this year, how can I bring in this theory of expansion into the things that I do? How can I go one step out of my comfort zone? How can I go one step developmentally? Like what can I develop from the ideas that I'm doing? And last year I took on the challenge of Step into January, which is happening again this year, and they're already 12 days in. And Step into January, it's more than just a fundraiser. It's a community movement run by the Megan Starr Foundation based in Milford Haven. And it's looking at getting physically fit. You're doing 10,000 steps per day. They make it social with big long walks on the weekend. And I suppose if you've got support to achieve a goal and you've got a sense of community around you to do it, you're more you're more likely to succeed in what you're trying to do. Would you agree with that, Hayley?
Yeah, absolutely. And to some extent, you have to plan that as well. If there's groups going out, you have to have some idea of when you're able to go out. So you have an element of planning. But yeah, having community around you who are doing the same thing is great because you get that energy from them, you get that support, that you can motivate each other. But setting ourselves up to fail. And I do wonder how much the idea of Quitter's Day plays on people's minds when they set the resolutions, because it's become a bit of a fun thing to do now. I'll set my resolution, I'll quit on the day is Quitter's Day.
Wow. Tammy, is it stylish to come up with outlandish resolutions and be like, if I make it to the end of January, then that's fine. But if not, I've always got a couple of weeks where I can be like, I can fob it off.
Well, it's that half-heartedness, isn't it? You're deliberately knowing that you're not going to succeed, but then you're succeeding in those first few weeks. So it's a bit of a kind of like a contradiction there, isn't it?
Yeah, there it is.
I like the idea of what you said about that step into January, that kind of going out with like-minded people. We work better as a tribe. We work better when we were with people of that kind of that have that same goal or that same desire. We have those health benefits. We're able to focus on the same thing. We know that getting active, for example, can reduce anxiety if we're doing the things that we enjoy. Mm-hmm. But Critters Day, it's just a fad. It's a funny term. It's a funny day. And you know how I feel about days like that, awareness days.
And but that's a very good point, though, isn't it? Is that if you sow the seed, you're more likely to just follow it and be like, well, today's whatever, Quitter's Day. I read about it. I saw it on Twitter. It's Quitter's Day. I'm having a tough time with my resolution, even though when you set it, it had something meaningful to you. Mm. Just because you're having a hard day doesn't mean that you should just throw the towel in. And also, taking this one step further, just because you might throw the towel on one day, what's stopping you from picking it back up the following day?
Yes, that's exactly it. We don't have to wait for the 1st of Jan.
Yeah, and we don't need to quit on the 17th and think, oh, well, that's me done until the next January.
No. And it's okay to have wobbles, and it's okay to have those kind of days where you don't achieve that goal. It's just returning back to that lifestyle, that routine, or that resolution, that goal. But you do it any time of the year. not just the 1st of Jan, and not on the 18th of Jan either.
Yeah. Hayley, Tammy made this point earlier. Tammy's a runner. Why would you want to go running in January? And Colette has said something very similar. Very interesting. January is just too bleak a month for me to make resolutions. I assume that's self-care all the way until nearer the spring. And then she's actually gone further than that and said, I believe in wintering. If I could, I would hibernate, which is nature's way. Sunshine for me brings me the motivation. Hayley, and I know that we've had conversations over going into summer, going into January. It is a bleak month. It's dark. The sun still sets at 4:30 in the afternoon.
It is, and that is tough to motivate yourself. And if you do, if you set resolutions and you manage to achieve them right throughout January, I think the rest of the year is going to be pretty easy. But I think the thing is, if you don't want to set them, don't set them. If you don't, I'm not a runner. I take my hat off to anybody who runs, and I always question, where are you running to? If running is what you want to do, wonderful. But January is not a great month to be motivated to run, is it?
No.
And
No,
that's my
it
point.
is
That's my
dark.
point. And I agree with Claire. It's that if you do it and you've been doing it for a while, you just carry on in January. That's what you do. But you don't start it because again, it's bleak, it's lousy, it's throwing it down outside. So just make those goals. If you need to do exercise or you want to do exercise, do it indoors if you're going to start.
And that goes back to your incremental point there as well, doesn't it? You don't have to go from like couch to 5K is brilliant because it's got those incremental steps. When the 1st of January comes, if you're not someone that's been physically active, for example, and all of a sudden you sign up to, I'm going to do a 5K every day and I'm going to do a 10K on a Sunday, it goes against the reality of the situation that you're in. Actually, those incremental things, right, I'm going to become, instead of I'm going to definitely run this every day, it's a case of I will be more active, whatever that looks like. And then it's you against you then from the previous day. And just being aware as to your own limits. Hayley.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Hayley, I just jumped in there. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Go on, Hayley, sorry.
No, well, yeah, if you're aware of your limits, you're aware of what challenges, and you're aware of what motivates you, then you're more likely to succeed. So I set myself a challenge last week. I make excuses. So with exercise, I will do less than I usually would. That I should, even though we don't like that word. No, let's phrase. I will do less than I set myself. So I challenged myself to do 1,400 squats in a month. I did it in 6 days. I was landed with myself. I've now done this week 2,000 squats this week as well.
Wow.
So
well done, you.
What I did last week was look at challenging myself. This is a goal for changing my mindset in my business, believe it or not. But for me, it was about not making those excuses. So that's what was important to me. It's not the squats that's really important. It's great. It's changing things that I didn't think I could change. But it's the tackling and making excuses. So when I talk about that goal, it's not what I'm doing. It's what it means to me is keeping me motivated.
Yeah. No, I like that. That it's that internal meaning behind it. And Delton's been back in touch actually. I really enjoy listening to Queen. So my resolution is to be sociable with you and everyone else. And that is something, depending on your motivation as to why you want to be sociable, being aware of your limits and your comfort zone. And it's like, what does being more sociable look like? Does it mean if I'm in a queue or if I'm at a bus stop, typically we'll sit in silence. Does it mean saying, hello, are you having a good morning so far? And increasing that talking, knowing that some people aren't going to reciprocate it.
Yeah, that's true. But again, wouldn't it be boring if you were all the same?
Yes, it would. Yes, it really would. We are going to we're going to move the conversation on because it's already 10 to 10 already. Can't believe it. After 10 o'clock, we're going to have Carl Williams from Synergy Health and Fitness joining us. He's been out and about socializing this evening, actually, so we'll find out what he's been up to. And he is brilliant for I've talked to him before about kind of motivation. He's got his 12-week transformation scheme that he does in Synergy Health and Fitness, which looks at not just becoming a gym goer, but looks at nutrition, which is why I mentioned Thomas earlier, and like, we'll wait till after 10 o'clock, but also understanding your mindset and why we make certain decisions that we make. And I think that rolls in really nicely into things like Quitters Day, and also a little bit later on, we can touch on it after 10 o'clock as well, things like Blue Monday, which is another thing that's been invented. It's the worst Monday of the year, which may or may not be true depending on your individual circumstances. So that's what we're going to be focusing on next. I'm doing two things at once because we've had a song request come in. Am I going to be quick enough to put it in? This is from Delton. Am I quick enough? I am quick enough to do this. So, Delton, your song's coming on next. So don't go anywhere. You'll have to tune in on smart speaker, on the mobile app, or on your computer. So we're going to have Queen bringing us up to the news. And when we come back, we're going to talk Quitters Day. We're going to talk motivation. We're going to have Carl with us. So if you have questions about how you can sustain your goals and how you can not quit on these things, get in touch now. The WhatsApp number is 01437 764455. Email studio@purewestradio.com, and we'll be live on our social medias after the news. So about 10:05. So should we put the kettle on?
Yes.
We'll put the kettle on, and we'll be back in a couple of moments. You're listening to Healthy Minds, Better Lives on Pure West Radio.